You always hear about Dylan Cruz and James Wood and Christian Vaquero and all the big-time prospects that this Nationals team has. But I'm going to tell you this, if Robert Hassell can turn it around, watch out, Major League Baseball.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, just make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And of course, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. Later on in today's show, we'll be talking about Mason Thompson as he has been shut down, and we'll be getting Tommy John surgery this Friday, which is tomorrow at this point in time. Devastating injury for him. A once really promising prospect within the Nationals. You trade Daniel Hudson for Mason Thompson. It was really not the splashiest move, but still, Mason Thompson had a lot of promise at one point in his career, had some really brilliant moments back in 2023 and as well as 2022. I was very excited for him. I thought this would be the year he breaks out. Unfortunately, he's going to have Tommy John surgery, and we'll discuss a little bit more of what that means, what could happen with the future of Mason Thompson here in Washington, D.C., and also spring training. Usually in the regular season, we do our Nationals stock report on Mondays after the weekend, really just kind of start the week, who's been hot and who's been not. But in the spring training, we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to do it on Wednesdays here moving forward for the rest of spring training. So you're going to get your national stock report right here and right now. But let's start off with discussing Robert Hassell here because, again, as I said, on this show, we talk a lot about James Wood. You talk a lot about Dylan Cruz, a lot of Brady House, and a lot of other guys. But if Robert Hassell turns it around, I'm telling you right now, watch out. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. And again, Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. And let's get into it because Robert Hassell has been killing the baseball so far down in spring training. And really a lot of people, including myself back in 2022, I thought Robert Hassell was going to be in the big leagues right then and there. I really did. Going back at it, looking at what Robert Hassell has kind of been over the last year and a half, he's been a shell of himself. When you get Robert Hassell at first, I was the one sitting here saying, I'm not worried about Robert Hassell. He's going to be the safest prospect that the Nationals got in that deal. Ultimately, since he was traded, it has not worked out well here. Last year, struck out nearly 40% of his at-bats from someone who went from striking out rarely in San Diego, coming to Washington, having that strikeout rate, that was concerning in itself. But since then, Robert Hassell, in spring training so far, recovering from a broken hamate bone back in 2022. He said he was dealing with it all of last year, as Bobby Blanco appointed earlier on this week when we were discussing it with him. He said Robert Hassell was kind of bothered by that injury, even back towards last year. Now he's 100% healthy. He's getting that strength back in his hand. And now you're starting to see really what Robert Hassell is all about. Not only is he hitting opposite field home runs, in which, let's be honest, I don't care who you are. If you're hitting opposite field home runs, that is a very good indication. And also, not just opposite field home runs. You saw it in yesterday's game. Another opposite field extra base hit as he kind of sliced one down the line, got another double, and Bobby Barrels could be back. Now, what could that mean for this Nationals team? What could it mean for the future of this Nats team? Because that is really kind of the big overwhelming question here. If Robert Hassell were to turn things around here and kind of get back healthy, get back to his old form, let's remind you of this. Robert Hassell was once a top 30 prospect when we traded for him. I believe a top 25 prospect even at literally most sites that you checked. This was a big-time prospect, a first-round pick, a top 10 pick, someone that really a lot of people expected to do big things here in Washington, D.C., and would probably be the first one to come up into the majors. But since then, James Wood has kind of taken over the hype. Dylan Cruz has come into the fold. Brady House has really taken form. And now you have Robert Hassell, who is sitting here just obliterating the baseball, as he has a 556 batting average so far. And again, limited at-bats, but you have 9 at-bats, you have a home run, you have three RBIs, you have 2 stolen bases, and you have a 1767 OPS. The numbers right there, I don't necessarily care about. But one thing has stood clear to me. When Robert Hassell is healthy, watch out. Because again, this is not someone who's kind of this big ceiling kind of guy. He doesn't really have that big of a ceiling. It was always known to be a very high floor player. This is always going to be someone who's going to be a plus defender. He's got a plus hit tool, and he's going to be a well-rounded ball player. He can do a little bit of everything, which in my opinion, that's kind of what I like. I've always kind of attributed him to be at his peak, maybe like a Jason Worth kind of type. I don't think he'll maybe hit many home runs as a Jason Worth will, but still, over the last few years, the struggles have been very real with this 21-year-old, or 22 now, actually. But since then, over this last year, you just can't help but kind of notice that he's been killing the baseball. And if Robert Hassell can just even take a little bit of a step forward, let's say the power does kind of come back, because that is really what has also been a major concern with him over the last few years. You talk about this with what he has done down in the minor leagues. Again, the stats are whatever at this point. You can expect a lot of different things. And really just in general, with Robert Hassell, with this kind of prized prospect that the Nationals got back in that Juan Soto deal, he's fallen off a cliff since then. But I think right now, maybe it is wishful thinking, but still going up against some major league talent. Now, again, he's not going up against, the best pitchers in the world out there, but there is something to be a little bit excited about, because this is something that he was not doing over the last year and a half. And it was concerning. At first, when he struggled last year, I was like, he's going to get things going. Never really did. He struggled a lot. In Double-A Harrisburg, he never really got his feet under him. You never really saw him hit the way that he was hitting back in San Diego. Now going forward, what he has been doing in spring training, what a lot of people have been talking about, is number one, he looks healthy. And that is a huge thing when it comes to Robert Hassell, because that's something that he hasn't really been doing over the last year or so. He hasn't been 100% healthy. There really hasn't been much to talk about as far as his development goes. But the numbers, they don't lie here. They do not. You can actually see the development with Robert Hassell right before our eyes. Because again, last year was so bad. It was so kind of unprecedented that going forward, you couldn't have really helped but say, how do we feel about Robert Hassell? This feels like another kind of big prospect kind of guy that the Nationals may not develop fully. Because Robert Hassell, again, in my opinion, I think a lot of fans' opinions as well, was one of the safer prospects. But imagine this now. James Wood, could be competing for an opening day spot at this moment in time. Just the way that he has been hitting, the way that he's starting every day again. He's going to be starting in today's game yet again. They're getting him a ton of playing time. I think the Nationals are kind of showing their cards of what they think about James Wood. But also with Robert Hassell, if you can get this guy to develop, let's say it. You have James Wood, you have Dylan Cruz. At this point, those two guys seem like can't miss prospects. I'm going to label Dylan Cruz that, even though he's kind of struggled a little bit down in spring training. But you all know Dylan Cruz is going to hit. He's going to hit eventually. He's going to be center field. He's going to be a very good center fielder for this Nationals team moving forward. You have James Wood in right field, Robert Hassell in left field. That is an outfield trio. I can tell you right, I'm not going to say it's the best outfield trio in Major League Baseball. But down the line, if all three of those guys were to reach their peak ceiling, this is an issue for Major League Baseball. I can tell you that right now. You have C.J. Abrams over at shortstop. You're going to have Brady House over at third base. You're going to fill some positions with second and first. We'll see what the Nats do. Maybe Yohandy Morales takes over at first base. Maybe Trey Lipscomb takes over at second base eventually. But also, you got some money to spend. You have Mackenzie Gore in the starting rotation. You have Keibert Ruiz behind the dish. There's a lot of different things that are kind of going well for this Nationals team right now during spring training. But in my opinion, outside of James Wood and the dominance that he has displayed, a healthy Robert Hassell has been the second biggest storyline in this National spring training group, as we have seen with the numbers so far. And as he gets more playing time, as he gets kind of acclimated to a major league schedule, playing every single day, getting healthier, just getting stronger, just getting better, and kind of seeing that development in front of our eyes. Not only does it show hope for what the Nationals could be coming for in the future, But also kind of shows you a little bit of hope for guys like Elijah Green, who have all the talent in the world, who's a five-tool kind of guy potentially, but it just hasn't really clicked. What if Elijah Green can get it going? What if Christian McCarrow, one of the Nationals' top international prospects over the last few years, what if he can get it going? It makes you ask these questions in which kind of make you think, how good can this Nationals outfield be? I can tell you this, if you get Robert Hassell going, you're going to have James Wood, who at this point is going to look like a superstar. He's going to have all the hype in the world going into spring training here as we kind of continue to go. And if he continues to hit, you all know the hype's going to keep on coming. You also have Dylan Cruz, who again, top 10 prospect in baseball, whichever site you look. And Dylan Cruz is a legit prospect. Legit. But now if you get Robert Hassell, oh my God. This is going to be a tough team to watch for maybe the next few months, but it ain't going to be that long. I can tell you that much. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, catch us over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals. Hit that subscriber button as well. That is where you'll find the video for this show. Next, let's get into our first national stock report of this spring training. Who's been hot? Who's been not? I'll tell you who after I tell you guys about our very good friends over at Gametime. And guys, when we talk about Gametime, you need to know this about them. There are many different ways that you buy seats, but there is nothing better than Gametime. And you should never have to worry about when you buy tickets for your next big event, because Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guaranteed. And you might ask, what are some ways that you may what you may like about Gametime? I can tell you this: they have last-minute tickets, flash deals, and zone deals. And one of my favorite features is that you can see the view from your seat. Let's say you're going to Wrigley Field where they have those metal columns in the middle of the row. You may be obstructed by one of those views, but with Gametime, you can tell right then and there. It will give you the seat view exactly of what you'll be seeing, all the action. Maybe the Nationals are heading up to Wrigley at some point this summer. You will be able to see where you're sitting. You'll be able to see where you'll see the game. It is amazing. It's one of my favorite features in all of sports. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And it's time for the first Nat stock report of spring training. So we're going to start up with a stock up for you-know-who, James Wood. So far, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, and a 1571 OPS. I saw this earlier from One Pursuit Takes, our guy Kev over on Twitter. And he said that as James Wood is starting again today, as he's been playing a ton this spring training, I think it starts to finally start talking about James Wood potentially being a opening day candidate. Could he start on this opening day roster? I think it's starting to look like that because, again, James Wood, we've all known this. The hype is real. If you're a Nationals fan, you've known this. He struggled last year down in AA Harrisburg, didn't get the promotion up to AAA that a lot of us thought he would be at the end of the year. Did not get that, struggled a lot. But the most impressive thing is the striking out, because he struck out a lot last year, which he hadn't really done up until getting traded into Washington again. But since then, over this course of spring training, he has not been striking out. He's been barreling up the baseball. He's really just been killing. And also, not even to mention the stolen base threat that this guy is going to bring. Standing at 6'6", 250 some odd pounds. Oh my God. This is literally kind of an alien. You know, CJ Abrams, he's got that alien chain. He's kind of been known as the alien. That's kind of the nickname that he has been given. Move out the way. James Wood is going to be an alien for this Nationals team, something that is not from planet Earth. And I think you're just starting to get a little bit of a taste of that. So that is, of course, your stock up for spring training. It's got to start there. And that is where it will start. That is where it will end. James Wood continues to kill the baseball. And the discussion is, could he not start at AAA and probably be a major league roster, maybe on opening day? I think we're going to be starting to talk about that here on Locked On Nationals moving forward. Stock down. Second base job for now, Luis Garcia. He's 0 for 8 in his first 8 at-bats. And listen, Luis Garcia, Andrew Golden of the Washington Post talked with him the other day, wrote a really good piece in the Post about him. And Luis Garcia knows that he's competing for a job. This is not a given that he's going to be starting. Nasim Nunez has looked relatively pretty good, especially defensively, in my opinion, over at second. You all know this. Nasim Nunez is going to be a very good second baseman up in the big leagues defensively. But where he's going to struggle is probably at the plate. And luckily, I just caught that sneeze there as well. But you all get the point. Luis Garcia is going to be a kind of a game time decision, in my opinion, whether he starts over at second base. And so far this spring training, it has not been a pretty look for him. Starting 0 for 8 is not good, especially for someone who's not very good defensively over at second. You got to be able to hit. You got to get on base. You got to put the ball in play. And Luis Garcia just simply has not done that up to this point. Another stock up for my guy in particular, Kyle Finnegan. This has always kind of been my man crush. I've always believed that if Kyle Finnegan, if he kind of reaches the tip top of his powers, this is going to be a very good relief pitcher for this Nationals team. Maybe not the closer a lot of us would be expecting, but I think Kyle Finnegan has looked really good so far this spring training. The command has been there, striking out 4 batters in 2 innings pitched so far. He's been really good and really impressive, and I think this could be the year where you kind of finally see Kyle Finnegan maybe take a step up. He's in his 30s here. Is his future going to be here in Washington? No, but again, relief pitchers at the trade deadline, if you get a veteran guy like Kyle Finnegan, who's not only under team control for the next few years, but someone who is a reliable relief pitcher on a better team especially, what would he look like? A little bit of run support, coming in with a lead in the game, coming in as your 7th or 8th inning guy in a big-time situation. Now, Kyle Finnegan hasn't been the most trustworthy guy in the past, but he's got good stuff. And I think when he puts it all together, that's when you see the best version of Kyle Finnegan. So keep an eye on him. He's been very good so far to start spring training. But speaking of someone who I think has a sky-high ceiling, who hasn't looked all that great for a couple of different reasons, we got to stock down for one of the Nationals' top left-handed pitching prospects, DJ Hers. I'm a DJ Hers guy. Don't get that twisted. The reason why I'm giving him a stock down is because the concerns about DJ Hers have kind of come into fruition here. He's a starting pitcher right now. He's been coming out of relief in the bullpen. I think at this point in time, it's kind of projecting way too early here. DJ Hers is likely going to be a relief pitcher in the majors someday. But as of right now, he's a starting pitcher. When you're a starting pitcher, you cannot walk the guys that DJ Hers has been walking. That has kind of been his big struggle. As soon as he got traded to the Nationals last year, though, it seemed to wipe away. He was very good in Double-A Harrisburg, had a very impressive second half to his season, striking out a ton of batters here. And that is what he's been doing as well. And I think that strikeout rate shows a lot to me. Because if you can get swings and misses, I don't care at what level, that is going to be impressive. You've seen it with Cole Henry this year as well, striking out the side or getting a couple strikeouts. The Nationals pitching has been relatively solid up to this point. But DJ Hers, walking 4 batters yesterday. The control issues were there. He airmailed the ball over first base. He threw one to the backstop. You see that he's got some control issues. It's a little bit John Lester-y early on in his career. I'm not saying he's going to be John Lester. That's a very, very good pitcher that I'm not going to put DJ Hers on that scale at this point, but that's what it kind of reminds me of at this point. A little bit jittery, a little bit of stuff to figure out, but I think if DJ Hers can figure out, in which, again, you saw it from a couple months last year to end the year, was a very good pitcher for this Nationals team. I think with that changeup that he has, you're going to see DJ Hers take off. But as of right now, it hasn't looked all too bad. But when you walk 4 batters in 2 innings, you're going to get a stock down. You can't walk that many guys. That's not going to make you a major league relief pitcher in any stretch of the imagination. So DJ Hers stock down for now. But again, the stuff is still there. Do not be concerned about DJ Hers. Our last stock up of the day, one of the minor league signings for this Nationals team, former All-Star, former Cincinnati Red, Jesse Winker. He's been showing some poise, man. I've seen a lot of people say he's going to be your starting left fielder on opening day. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case at this point. I can't really buy into that at this moment in time that he's going to be your starting left fielder, but I got to give credit to him. He's been hitting the ball. He's been looking really good at this point of the season. Jesse Winker, again, last year looked awful. The year before that was not good either. But Jesse Winker's got a lot of stuff in the tank, I think. He's not the sexiest, flashiest name, but still, he's been hitting the ball. He's been showing some poise. And the Nationals, they need a little bit of left-handed power in that starting lineup at some point. If it's not going to be James Wood, if it's not going to be name that prospect or Juan Yepez, right-handed hitter, but still, you understand the point. The Nationals, they kind of need to step up here. Jesse Winker, I'm not saying he's going to be that guy to step up here, but he's been looking good so far in spring. So I give the guy a little heads up and give him a little head nod and say, good job. He's been pretty damn good so far. So stock up for Jesse Winker. The Nationals are looking pretty damn good, to say the least, as we sit here today. Next, let's talk about this. Mason Thompson, unfortunately, is going to be undergoing some season-ending Tommy John surgery, as that was kind of the concern for a lot of people. What does it mean? Do we still have the patience to develop Mason Thompson? Because you're going to be recovering from Tommy John over the next year. Again, this is the second time in a row that the Nationals had a relatively, he's not a prospect anymore, but still, he was still developing, having a first full season up in the majors last year. He got sent down and kind of yo-yoed back and forth at times, but Mason Thompson still has the stuff until he had Tommy John surgery. So let's discuss Mason Thompson, what that means for the bullpen, after we tell you guys about our very good friends over at FanDuel. And guys, get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. And bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and much, much more. Let's say the Wizards are playing tonight. They've got 9 wins, man. 9 wins. You have to bet against the Wizards. You've got to fade them at this point. It is simple math, but when you do it, make sure to do it with our friends at FanDuel. When you go to FanDuel, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, that is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot, because FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Now we get back into it as Mason Thompson, one of the Nationals, in my opinion, better relievers as far as production goes for what his ceiling is. I really like the stuff that Mason Thompson has shown over the years. But now we sit here today, Tommy John surgery. You're not going to see him for 2024. You likely won't see him until a little bit later on in the spring of next season. And it's not a great sign. It's not good. As he was working out in the summer, he said he felt a little tweak and it got a little sore. And ultimately, Davey Martinez said that he was pretty concerned about Mason Thompson. And when a pitcher and a manager kind of both say the same thing, that they're relatively concerned and that it didn't really feel normal, you kind of already know what that means, especially with an elbow injury. Worst case scenario was Tommy John surgery. And now that is what we're getting with Mason Thompson here. This is the second time he is having Tommy John surgery. The last time coming back in high school. Listen, this is a big blow for the Nationals. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, he did struggle at points last year. Yes, he did blow some saves. Yes, he came in and, didn't do all great all the time. He had a lot of bad moments, but this is still a young, promising prospect. This is still someone that the Nationals really can hang their hat on. It's going to be a tough one. This is going to be a tough one to replace, in my opinion, because I had a lot of expectations for Mason Thompson over the course of his career, and, it sucks. It sucks to see Mason Thompson go down like this because, again, I think this is one of the Nationals' more promising relief pitchers in their bullpen. You haven't seen it put together at every point and every step of the way so far, but listen, it's not good to have Mason Thompson shut down here, because I think the kid's got a lot of promise. I think there's a lot to like about Mason Thompson, but Tommy John surgery is going to be ending his season. It's not great. It's not what you want to see, but still, at the end of the day, hopefully Mason Thompson can return to form next year and hopefully just take shape and maybe do just a little bit more. But unfortunately, season's cut short. We'll just have to see him in 2025. I think this Nationals team will look a lot different. He's going to be a nice little addition to that Nationals bullpen once he gets healthy yet again. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day. If you haven't already, check us out over on YouTube. Search Locked On Nationals. Hit that subscriber button. That is where you'll catch us when it's your team every single day. And of course, enjoy the Nationals spring training game today. I will catch you on the flip side. Have a good one.